Imagine for a second that you are just incredibly, unbelievably good at your job. Like, so relentlessly adaptable to every single problem thrown your way that while everyone else in your industry gets terrified and just teams up to cancel you.
Right, they just completely ice you out.
Exactly. They cut you off, they refuse to trade with you, they freeze your accounts, and they literally lock you out of the building. But instead of fighting back or, launching this massive counterattack, you just quietly pack up your desk, disappear into the woods, and build an unimaginably advanced, self-sustaining utopia in absolute secret.
I mean, it is the ultimate quiet quitting, just
Yeah.
blown up to this massive galactic civilization-altering scale.
It really is. And that scenario is the exact premise of Humanity Ascendant, the silent architects of the stars, which is this fascinating piece of sci-fi we're looking at today.
Yeah, and on the surface, it looks like a massive space opera. But really, it's this giant sociological thought experiment. It's about what happens when a civilization finally stops getting in its own way.
Which is such a cool concept. So our mission for this deep dive is to sift through this narrative and pull out its core insights on human nature, the highly destructive cost of fear, and the sheer mechanics of cooperation.
Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning.
Right, the setup.
Yeah, so we are dropped into a universe where about 4,000 years ago, humanity was basically deemed unstoppable. You've got this galactic neighborhood filled with these ancient established powers.
Real guard, basically.
Right. And while these alien empires are spending like centuries locked in endless political debates or just collapsing under the weight of their own systemic corruption, humans are just building. They keep hitting roadblocks and they just keep adapting.
And that relentless momentum is what fundamentally terrifies the rest of the galaxy. Because, humanity isn't out there acting like a cartoon villain.
No, not at all.
They aren't conquering planets or pillaging resources. It's just their sheer adaptability. The established empires look at humans and see a variable they cannot control.
Which is terrifying for an empire. Exactly. And that fear leads directly to the largest economic blockade in galactic history.
Let's look at this alliance that forms against humanity because it's massive. It's an unprecedented coalition. You've got the Dravari Empire, the Sith Collective, the Vorn Dominion, and even these ancient machine civilizations.
They all just band together.
Yeah, and they completely severed diplomatic relations. They isolate human colonies, cut off all trade routes, and lock Earth out of the galactic economy entirely.
They fully expect human civilization to just wither on the vine. Like, they think Earth will collapse within a few decades.
Which, honestly, it kind of reminds me of a toxic workplace.
Oh, how so?
Well, it's like when the most efficient worker in the office is shunned out of pure jealousy, right? So they just quit, they go completely off the grid, and quietly found a rival Fortune 500 company.
That is a great way to put it. And what's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of that galactic alliance.
Yeah.
It reveals this fundamental flaw in empires built on extraction.
Right, because they misunderstand the whole situation.
Exactly. The text points out that these alien empires united to launch this blockade, but they completely confused isolation with destruction. The Dravari, the Sith, the machines, they just couldn't fathom an existence outside their established, heavily regulated galactic structures.
They relied on a centralized system to survive, so they just assumed humanity was exactly the same way.
Right. They put a box over humanity and assumed that because they couldn't see them anymore, well, they must have ceased to exist.
The old out-of-sight, out-of-mind trick.
Exactly. And why that matters is because it shows the galaxy's actions were driven by a fear of the unknown, rather than any actual malice demonstrated by humanity. Political alliances that are built purely on shared paranoia are inherently blind to the resilience of their targets.
Because they didn't unite out of a shared common vision for a better galaxy. They just united because they were terrified of being outpaced.
Right. They just stopped looking for them.
Yep.
They patted themselves on the back and went right back to their own internal squabbles.
But you can't hide a growing civilization forever.
Right.
Eventually, that illusion is going to crack. And because they stopped looking, it took 4 whole millennia until a totally routine scan out on the very edge of max space accidentally shattered that illusion.
And that discovery sequence is incredibly vivid, mostly just because of the sheer scale of what they stumble into.
Oh, it's amazing. So we follow this exploration vessel, the Dawn Seeker, commanded by a Captain Relin, and he's charting near this notoriously dangerous, unmapped region of space known as the Black Expanse.
Which is essentially a galactic blind spot.
Right. Navigation sensors fail, military fleets refuse to go there, but out of nowhere, his instruments pick up a signal. And it's not just any signal, it's a human transmission.
And the crazy part, it's only 17 seconds old.
Yes, after 4,000 years.
I mean, for thousands of years, humanity has been the galaxy's bogeyman. They were reduced to a myth, right? The impossible engineers, this specter of a species that just vanished. And suddenly there's a live pulse in the dark.
So Captain Relan and his crew, they trace the signal into the black expanse. They drop out of warp, expecting to find, I don't know, the dark, or maybe some desperate, struggling remnant of humanity clinging to a barren asteroid.
Bunch of scavengers.
Yeah. But instead, they find an ocean of light. The text describes the civilization of quadrillions of people. They see artificial stars, they see Dyson spheres, those theoretical megastructures that completely encase a star to harness 100% of its solar energy.
It's just mind-boggling engineering.
It's insane. They see orbital rings spanning millions of kilometers and entire star systems engineered into these flawless geometric patterns. They even find the original Earth perfectly preserved as this lush, living monument right in the center of it all.
Oh, and don't forget the leaked intelligence later on.
Right. The intelligence that reveals humanity is sitting on an estimated fleet of over 200 billion warships.
200 billion. It's a number that completely shatters the galaxy's paradigm of what a civilization can even achieve. The scale of their engineering just implies this mastery of physics and logistics that the old empires cannot even begin to comprehend.
Okay, but I struggle with this part of the narrative, honestly. I have to push back a little on the realism of this setup.
Really? Why?
Well, look at human history. Whenever a society gets a bigger stick, whether it's bronze weapons or gunpowder or splitting the atom, we don't tend to hide it. We use it. We expand.
True. History is pretty clear on that.
Right. So if humanity has an armada of 200 billion warships and a population in the quadrillions and technology that makes the rest of the galaxy look, frankly, primitive, why on earth are they still hiding? Does the text actually justify why this hyper-advanced humanity suddenly lost its ego and decided to just sit and park for 4,000 years instead of, conquering the empires that blockaded them?
And that right there is the crucial tension of the entire book, because if you have the biggest stick in the universe, why aren't you swinging it? Well, the text addresses this by introducing us to Administrator Elena Ward. She's the representative of the Human Cooperative. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, her explanation to Captain Roland totally reframes that entire 4,000-year absence.
What does she tell him?
She tells him that humanity left because they were simply tired.
Wow. Tired of being the galaxy's scapegoat.
Exactly that. They were exhausted from being used to solve every diplomatic and logistical crisis, only to be blamed and feared when their solutions worked a little too well.
So they just walked away.
Yeah, Elena explains that they hid themselves away, not just to survive the blockade, but to actually conduct an experiment. It was like the ultimate control group for a sociological study.
Oh, that's interesting. What were they testing?
They wanted to see, were human beings the variable causing all the friction and conflict? Or is the galaxy just inherently violent? They removed themselves to see if the rest of the galaxy could finally achieve peace without humanity around to serve as a convenient distraction.
Ah, I see. They took away the excuse. The galaxy always claimed humanity was the problem, so humanity essentially said, fine, we're out. Let's see you fix your own house.
It was a brutal test of the galaxy's own accountability. And of course, the tragedy is that the galaxy completely failed that test.
Without humanity around to blame, they just turned on each other.
Exactly. The Dravari went to war with the Sith. The machine empires expanded aggressively, wars still erupted, empires still collapsed, and corruption continued unchecked.
The galaxy was still completely broken. And realizing that the galaxy failed the test is what triggers the next major movement in the story, right? Humanity realizes they can't just hide in a vacuum forever while the rest of the universe burns itself to the ground.
No, they have a responsibility now.
Yeah, they have to step out of the shadows. Which leads to a confrontation that defies absolutely every expectation the Galactic Council has.
I mean, think about it. The galaxy has spent 4 millennia telling themselves stories about the dangerous, unpredictable humans. So when news of humanity's survival and that massive fleet leaks back into known space, the reaction is absolute pandemonium.
The source describes panic sweeping the galaxy. Markets crash instantly. Entire centuries-old alliances reorganize overnight just to prepare for this impending doom.
The Galactic Council is literally bracing for a laser beam apocalypse.
They are entirely convinced humanity has spent the last 4,000 years building those 200 billion warships for a revenge campaign. And then The human delegation arrives.
The narrative just completely subverts the traditional space opera trope of the conquering armada right here.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Elena Ward, the human representative, walks right into the center of the Galactic Council chamber. She brings no weapons.
She doesn't even bring any guards.
She just walks in, and she doesn't declare a war.
She doesn't even issue a threat.
No. Instead, she presents undeniable hard data. She projects these charts proving that the entire galaxy is slowly destroying itself through economic decline, resource shortages, and environmental collapse.
Just showing them the math of their own demise.
And when one of the terrified alien delegates asks her what humanity proposes to do about it, she just smiles and offers one word: partnership.
Partnership.
And when asked why, after everything the galaxy did to blockade them, they would offer help. She says, because we're human.
It's a staggering moment. But it's also rooted in the most profound revelation of the entire text, because the story then pulls back the curtain on humanity's ultimate secret.
Like how they actually did it.
Right. How did they achieve this level of engineering? How did they build artificial stars and manage a population of quadrillions without tearing themselves apart?
It's the big reveal.
Earth eventually releases its historical archives to the galaxy, and the truth is that humanity's greatest achievement wasn't their technology at all.
It wasn't the Dyson spheres or the orbital rings.
No. The greatest achievement was unity. The archives reveal that thousands of years earlier, humanity had this massive epiphany. They realized that internal conflict consumed astronomically more resources than any external threat ever could.
All the infighting and competition.
Yeah, the ideological wars against each other, it was a massive systemic drain on their collective potential.
Let me try a mechanical analogy here, because the way the book describes it really reminds me of fixing a massive thermodynamic leak in an engine.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So think of a civilization as a motor. For millennia, so much of the energy we produced was just lost to the sheer friction of fighting ourselves.
Like heat loss in a real engine.
Exactly. We spent like 90% of our energy fighting over the last 10% of our resources. We dumped trillions of dollars and countless hours of human ingenuity into border disputes, ideological wars, corporate sabotage.
All of that is just friction,
Yeah.
wasted energy.
Right. But the text suggests that once humanity eliminated that internal drag, once they sealed that thermodynamic leak, suddenly 100% of their power could be directed into forward momentum.
And an engine running with zero internal friction produces unstoppable exponential progress.
It's a complete game changer.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The removal of friction is the catalyst for everything they built. But this raises an important question. What does that unity actually look like in practice?
Because it sounds a little utopian.
Right, like how do you remove friction from a society of quadrillions of people? Because the text is very careful to clarify that this unity was not conformity.
They didn't just brainwash everyone or turn the population into a giant, emotionless hive mind.
No, and that's the genius of it. The source explicitly states not perfection, not conformity, cooperation. They didn't erase differences.
So what did they do?
They engineered systems and their logistics, their governance, their resource distribution, where collaboration consistently paid out higher dividends than exploitation.
They made conflict economically and socially unviable.
Exactly. It was different cultures, different ideas, and different beliefs actively choosing to work together because the systems rewarded it. That radical tolerance of diversity, that ability to hold on to different identities but still pull in the exact same direction, that was their actual technological breakthrough.
The ships and the artificial suns were just a byproduct of that social evolution.
Precisely.
That distinction is so incredibly vital. They didn't stop being human. They didn't lose their messy, diverse cultures. They just codified tolerance into their infrastructure.
They decided that building things together was just a more efficient use of their time than tearing each other down.
And this profound shift in how a species operates doesn't just solve humanity's problems in the black expanse. It becomes the exact blueprint for saving the entire dying galaxy.
By offering partnership instead of conquest.
Yes. Humanity is fundamentally rewriting the collective future of every species that once feared them.
The book presents a very clear dichotomy here. The old empires, the ones that blockaded Earth, they believed in extractive power. They believed that to be strong, you had to take from someone else. You win by making someone else lose.
A zero-sum game.
Exactly. But humanity proved that true strength is generative. Generative power means you build, you create new resources, and the rising tide lifts all ships.
And we actually get to see the tangible results of this generative power. The narrative jumps forward a century to show us the aftermath, and it's a completely transformed universe.
Totally different galaxy.
The text describes a galaxy celebrating Unity Day, which is a holiday honoring the exact moment humanity revealed itself and offered a hand instead of a sword.
It's a beautiful image.
It is. And within just a few decades, human technology has ended starvation across multiple star systems. Human medicine has eradicated hundreds of diseases that were plaguing the alien worlds.
Their engineers restored dead planets.
Yes, and built education networks that connect civilizations that used to shoot at each other on sight. And the kicker, they did all of this without ever asking for tribute or territory or even loyalty. They just asked for cooperation.
They proved that the most effective way to secure your own survival in a hostile galaxy isn't to build taller walls, but to make sure your neighbors are too prosperous to ever want to attack you.
Wow. And that brings us to the final scene of the text, which is just a beautiful, lasting image. We see Administrator Elena Ward, who is now over 200 years old thanks to this advanced human medicine.
Right, she's still around.
She is standing in a colossal orbital station above Earth, looking out at the stars. And a young officer approaches her and reports that long-range scanners have discovered brand new, uncontacted civilizations way out beyond the outer rim.
Into the unknown again.
Yeah, and the officer asks if they should send a detachment of the massive war fleet to go introduce themselves. And Lena just looks at this endless sea of warships, shakes her head, and says, "No, with engineers."
With engineers. It's a perfect distillation of their entire philosophy.
It really wraps up the whole theme.
It does. After thousands of years of trial and error, the ultimate lesson has been permanently encoded into their culture. A civilization built through fear eventually falls, but one built through trust can last forever.
So, what does this all mean for you, listening to this right now? Why spend time unpacking a fictional space opera about artificial stars and alien blockades?
Right, what's the takeaway?
Because at its core, this story is a mirror. It's a reflection of our own potential. It strips away the noise of our daily lives and reminds us that our greatest asset as a species isn't the tools we invent, or the software we code, or the machines we build.
None of that.
Our ultimate superpower is our willingness to build hope and trust together. It's the active choice to collaborate rather than compete, to generate rather than extract.
And that leaves us with a really challenging thought to mull over as we wrap up. The story posits that humanity's greatest, most world-changing superpower is our ability to set aside our differences to achieve impossible progress. We clearly dream about this radical cooperation in our fiction. We know what it looks like. So if this is what we believe we are truly capable of at our best, what invisible, self-imposed blockades are we currently building around ourselves in reality right now, simply because we refuse to work together?
A question worth taking a deep dive into on your own. Keep questioning, keep building, and we'll catch you next time.